We are back near the banks of the Potomac River, where there are still more questions and answers at this hour following the deadly mid-air crash near Reagan National Airport. Joining us now is Democratic Senator of Virginia, Tim Kaine. Senator, I would say it is good to see you again, but certainly not under these circumstances. Tragedy doesn't begin to describe it. And I just wonder what you're feeling and what you're hearing at this hour.
Well, I'm feeling immense sadness for the families that were affected and also a little bit of a sense of dread because this is a small community. When the list of names come out, the 60 passengers, the 4 crew, the 3 service members, you know, we're going to have some contacts with them. That people in the office will know them. People in other Senate offices will know them. I've been through events like this before, and so you kind of dread hearing who has actually suffered as a result of this. I do want to praise the first responders, you know, multiple jurisdictions, local, state, and federal. I was there at the airport about 6:30 this morning, and to see them working so well together in the recovery operation and already starting the investigation, that's great. But look, we have a lot of questions. I think there's going to be a briefing by the National Transportation Safety Board, a public briefing later today, and you may have some sort of preliminary thoughts from them about what they're looking at. But clearly, they're going to be looking at the flight paths of the plane and the helo, and questions like were either aware of each other? Were they aware through visual ID? Were they aware because of what they heard from air traffic control? Were they aware because of instrumentation on board? Had there been any changes to the flight paths of either that would have been, you know, last minute that could have affected the awareness of one for the other? Those are the kinds of questions that we'll be digging into. The NTSB takes the lead on in the investigation. They're good. They do a very good job. You don't speculate. You don't, you know, throw odd ideas out. You follow the facts, and you don't want to get blinded to the true facts because you have a hypothesis that may turn out to be incorrect. But they do a good job, and we'll know the answers.
Well, let me ask you about what President Trump had to say today, because he had 2 specific points of criticism. One is that the NTSB, he said history tells us, takes a very long time to come to a conclusion, and he felt that the American people deserved answers, and so he put some of his own ideas out there, including suggesting that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies had somehow played a role in this crash. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is that's sickening. It turns my stomach. Imagine you're a family member and you're grieving the loss of a family member. You have the President of the United States telling you that your loved one was killed because of DEI when he has 0 evidence, and I mean 0, I mean less than 0, to suggest that's true. It's been reported today that President Trump scrapped an aviation safety board that was advising the DHS on January 22. Maybe he wanted to change the subject and not have to answer questions about why he did that. There was not an FAA administrator named. Okay, he's named somebody today. Great, but his decision to, instead of comfort grieving families, start to play a blame game is really sickening, and maybe there's something that he doesn't want to have the public pay attention to.
Less than 24 hours after the worst crash we've seen in over a decade, the NTSB is clear and frank, right? Transparent. It doesn't know yet what went wrong. It doesn't know. They're the experts. But Donald Trump and his sycophants, oh, they know. They know.
The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country. They actually came out with a directive to white, and we want the people that are competent.
How you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash?
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this.
The era of DEI is gone at the Defense Department, and we need the best and brightest.
When we deal with safety, we can only accept the best and the brightest.
When you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means, on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there.
Mr. President, to be clear, are you saying race or gender played a role in this tragedy?
It may have. I don't know. Incompetence might have played a role. We'll let you know that. But we want the most competent people. We don't care what race they are. We want the most competent people, especially in those positions. And you're talking about extremely complex things. And if they don't have a great brain, a great power of the brain, they're not going to be very good at what they do, and bad things will happen.
Trump is blaming what he likes to call DEI, more accurately, initiatives to identify, cultivate, and elevate talent from all sectors of American life in the federal government. Basically, anti-discrimination measures. He's out there, again, less than 24 hours, blaming his predecessor, blaming women and people of color. Like, you know, when he says, like, they said it was too white, we need competent people. What's he saying there, right? And he's, of course, doing this to blame anyone but himself, even though, I should note, in case you didn't know this, he is the president, and as such, he is the head of the entire federal government. Now, of course, this is the way Donald Trump operates. Despite his desire for essentially unilateral authority, he is a spectator to his own presidency the second something goes wrong. Hopping on social media last night, like millions of other people, about how the accident was not good, which, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with that. Totally consistent about ducking any responsibility ever at any time. During his first term, and you probably don't remember this incident, it was a big deal. When a military mission in West Africa went wrong, American soldiers lost their lives, Trump did not hesitate to throw his own generals under the bus, even though he himself was the commander-in-chief.
Did you authorize the mission? So what? No, I didn't. Not specifically. But I have generals that are great generals. These are great fighters. These are warriors. And I gave them authority to do what's right so that we win. That's the authority they have.
Of course, Trump refused to take any accountability during the COVID pandemic, even as hundreds of thousands of people died under his watch.
Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all because we were given a set of circumstances and we were given rules, regulations, and specifications from a different time.
To be clear, that was 4 years into his administration. As soon as things went sideways, he was blaming the last administration 4 years in. We are 11 days into this new administration, and as you can see, stakes are extremely high across the board. And the one thing that Trump and his administration have been laser focused on, I would even say more than anything else in the first 11 days, is destroying the federal workforce as currently constituted by purging it of independent experts and replacing them with people that will be reliably loyal cronies. That is the plan. You know, it's easy to throw around terms like unelected bureaucrat, which the right likes to do, but unelected bureaucrats are precisely the people who are going to investigate this crash. In fact, those are the people working air traffic control and regulating airplane safety. When Trump's government sends that email trying to purge workers, to induce them into leaving their jobs, those are the people who are getting purged. When the man who is up for possible confirmation to run the Office of Management and Budget that issued that memorandum that was rescinded, that guy, Russ Vought, reportedly said his goal is to put civil servants in trauma. When he said that, that's who he's talking about. The people that, you know, do air traffic control. When Trump and his administration declares a war on the so-called deep state, that is who they're going to war with. It is quite literally the people who go to find the facts, who have expertise, who keep our airplanes in the air, who manage the inordinately complex bureaucracies that are the platform and foundation for American flourishing. It's not some enemy abroad. They're targeting the very same people who are going to work right now as I speak to you, right? Who are in the Potomac, sifting through the wreckage of this tragedy, trying in good faith with their expertise to actually figure out what happened. And what you...
So, folks, what you're seeing here is the continued fallout. Here's the thing, and you, whether or not you agree with this, the Democrats were not really going to make this political. Not as a group. Individual, I don't know, but They were going to, do the responsible thing. Not speculate about what happened. Focus on the fact that this was a tragic accident. Send love and condolences to the people affected. And then study how this could be prevented in the future. That's the correct way. But Donald's the one that, again, I said this earlier. Donald kicked the hornet's nest, and they are stinging his orange behind, right? That's what's happening right now. He's the one that was like, it's DEI, it's political, it's blah, blah, blah. But what we've seen, everything we've seen, is that this is emblematic of a Republican-style worldview. You don't need regulations as much. You can have less staff. You can just ramp things up. You can, use the political influence of Musk and Trump to force people out. You can spend the first week of governing not on actually governing, but on vengeance. It's I know changes have been made, executive orders have been passed. I get it. Some policy changes have happened, but it does seem like the majority of the focus has been on getting rid of non-loyalists and enacting revenge. That's why, Elon basically, badgered the guy into quitting. The Trump-Elon White House badgered the FAA leader to quitting, and then a few days later, this happens. You see it in the military side. We've talked about this. Hegseth comes in, and what's his priority? Not actually making the country safer, but villainizing trans people who serve, villainizing any form of diversity in the military, and ripping down the portrait of Mark Milley. And you don't even have to like Mark Milley, but or you could even hate Mark Milley. But is the number one priority to take down a picture and remove the security clearance of a guy? No. This is what happens when you put nutjob fascists in charge.